That's we got like a Cajun French term called a tête d'oeil. That means hard head, bro. We got a bunch of hard-headed fellas down here and ladies, and the harder it is to survive a thing, the more likely it is we will.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Just to prove you wrong.
Season 3 of the Plant Strong podcast explores those Galileo moments where you seek to understand the real truth around your health and dare to see the world through a different lens. This season, we honor those courageous seekers who are paving the way for you and me. So grab your telescope, point it towards your future, and let's get plant strong together.
Hello, Plant Strong people. I hope that you're in a good place right now in your life. You're feeling confident and powerful and present, because so many of us don't even realize how lucky we are. And this conversation that I have today will kind of help to highlight that. This is a conversation that it's very raw, it's very real, and it's very timely. And it's with a gentleman that I've known for over 8 years. His name is Josh LaJohny, and he hails from Thibodaux, Louisiana. And he is Cajun to the core, as you're going to hear. He is quick as a whip. He is tough as nails. And he's also hurting right now, as you're going to hear about. But Josh has a big change journey that he went through that is insane. At his top weight, he was over 420 pounds. And he went from that to being on the cover of Runner's World magazine, winning 50-mile running races, being on the Today Show and Good Morning America, where he talked about a club that he founded called the Missing Chins Club for overweight individuals who were getting back or just starting to run. And Josh, he's a very special human being. And in the aftermath of Ida, he's in a tough pickle right now. And this trailer park that his grandfather founded several decades ago, that Josh now runs, was basically obliterated by Ida. And this community has gone without power, water, basically, scraps of food for weeks. And 120 families that Josh feels responsible for. And so I would ask, if you're at all moved by today's conversation and you feel like lending a helping hand in any way you can, let's do it. Let's help our Plant Strong brother Josh out. We'll have some ways that you can donate if you want in the show notes. And I know that you're going to, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but I know that you're going to cherish this conversation, and there's a lot of great takeaways. I also want to let you know that Josh and I had to do this interview with his cell phone because his internet is still out. So forgive the audio quality of this one, but the conversation, I think you'll agree, is worth every moment of your time. Thanks. Before we jump in with Josh, it feels timely and very relevant to share how important it is to find and maintain connections with other people in the face of all the challenges that we have working against us right now. If you aren't already a member, I want to invite you to join our free Plant Strong community. It's an online space where you can share your story, search for recipes, offer support to others who are at different stages of their journey, or heck, you can just discuss different podcast episodes. We've got an awesome team of moderators, Plus, I drop in from time to time as well. To join, visit community.plantstrong.com and introduce yourself. We look forward to meeting you. And now, let's jump in with my friend, Josh LaJaughanie. I have a very special guest on the Plant Strong podcast this week. His name is Josh LaJaughanie, and I've known Josh for, probably a good 6-7 years. I first heard about Josh when he was on the Rich Roll podcast, probably 8 years ago. Josh, do you know what year you did the Rich Roll podcast?
That was in 2013.
My gosh, so that was 8 years ago, almost exactly.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was December 2013 was the episode aired,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And, gang, I can't wait for you to hear Josh's story, his big change journey. He wrote a book called Sick to Fit a couple of years ago that is fabulous. You started the Missing Chins Running Club that I want everybody to hear about. You at one point in time, not too long ago, you weighed 420 pounds, and you are now, you have been on the cover of Runner's World. You've been on Good Morning America. You've been on the Today Show. It's pretty incredible what you've been able to do, and nobody's got a story like yours. Nobody. And I know that everybody has their own, very unique story, but there's something about yours, kind of growing up in New Orleans and Thibodaux and just that whole lifestyle and that culture that is really, it's like its own separate, like just country. And everybody,
it is, yeah.
Yeah. And so everybody, you're going to get a feel for that. But Josh, before you dive into that, I would love it if you would share with people, just because it's so top of mind, and what you've been going through for the last week or two due to Ida, and then on its heels, Nicholas.
Yeah, just we grow up, like I grew up in the Gulf South and dealing with hurricanes all my life, and you always worried about the big one, the one to just hit you square on the chin.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I grew up in a trailer park, and my grandfather owned the trailer park, so it was always very nerve-wracking around hurricane time to it was just always nerve-wracking. You see those destructive videos of destruction like Andrew in Florida back in the mid 90s, and it's always been nerve-wracking, and every year you kind of go, oh, maybe this is the year, and it's builds a lot of anxiety. Honestly, it causes a lot of anxiety. But this year we kind of got a worst case scenario down here as far as hurricanes are concerned, and we really took one on the chin. Worst one that ever hit Louisiana in history, worst one to ever make landfall. And I mean, we've had some doozies here, between Katrina and Camille. Just to the east of us was a really bad, deadly hurricane, and Hurricane Betsy here in the 60s.
Yeah.
In Thibodaux was like our last big one. But Ida has just pummeled, especially the southern half of my parish. Thibodaux is where I'm from, which is up in the very northern part of the parish, which we call up the bayou. And up the bayou, while it's still the worst destruction we've ever seen in Thibodaux proper and in Chack Bay, where I'm from, and the surrounding areas, it's nothing compared to Raceland going south. And I haven't even been down there yet, but our parish just got pummeled, man. And it's hard to see, and it's frustrating on so many different levels.
So
we're still in a situation where we don't have, I just got power back a couple of days ago. We still don't have good, reliable internet. So I'm trying to do this interview on our cellular network, which itself is a little sketchy at the moment, but that's what we got going on going on right now.
Well, so you grew up in the trailer park that you said
Yeah.
your grandfather, and what's your grandfather's name?
His name is Alan Parks.
Uh-huh.
He's
But
a
what do you
yeah.
call him? Didn't you call him Bam
I call
Bam?
oh my bad. Yeah, I call him Bam Bam. Right. That's something I gave him that name when I was like 2 years old. He was a contractor, and he was at one of his suppliers in the warehouse, like a lumber vendor.
Yeah.
And they were having a Christmas party or something, and somebody randomly pointed at a picture of him to me because I was the baby there, and they said, "Who is this?" And I said, "Bam Bam," and the name just kind of stuck,
Yeah.
And we really don't know why. I mean, specifically, there's a lot of theories, but yeah, that's what I've always called him. And he's been, because my parents were basically teenagers when I was born, and so they played my mom's parents. So that's Bam Bam's my mom's dad.
Yeah.
They played a huge role in my life, and so he and I were extremely close.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this trailer park, you're now kind of running it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many families like live there?
We have 120 families or households live there. We have some people who have multiple. There's multiple addresses out there with the same last name. People just grew up there, and then when they grew up, they bought a trailer and put it on the lot 2 streets down from Mama, and you know, interesting. That's just our community. You know, it's like it's a family business, but it's also a family home, and it's a community.
So 120 families, and of those 120 families, like, is everybody still there, or did?
But for the most part, yeah. But I would say probably, just guessing, between 8 and 10 have had to move out. Some plan on coming back. Some lost everything. We've had some mobile homes in there where people just had the entire thing just pulled apart by the wind. We've never seen that kind of sustained wind before where we are.
Yeah.
And some of them, we just had some of these massive trees, like Rip, it pulled a root ball up as big, like that would have 3 cubic yards of dirt attached to it. Like it's just pulled up the dirt out of the ground.
Yeah.
And I've never seen trees fall with such force. I've always seen trees kind of get blown and they slowly lean into a trailer and a limb might do a little damage or something. But I've never seen them just explode like a baseball bat whacking it, and I mean, roof smashed through the floor, it's insane. The amount of force it's just insane.
So, what does the last week and a half look like for you as far as, running this place? What have you been doing to take care of all your tenants?
Well, luckily, some people have stepped in and helped out, and I'm able to do things like we've been buying gas because we've been off grid for, we just got power back last night at the trailer park. So we've been off grid for a while now. And so I've been able to buy gas for people every day for their generators. And a lot of people have donated food and supplies and money to buy supplies. We was able to go when I saw how much damage we had out of the trailer park. Me and my dad, we drove to a place about an hour and a half away because that's the closest we could get supplies. Like it was chaos here. People just they don't understand. It's like and we just bought tarps, all the tarps we could get, and filled up the back of my truck and came back so we could start tarping up and keeping the rain off because we still in tropical season, but their roof is destroyed,
Yeah.
So it's just we've been filling up gas on the repeat every day, putting up tarps, right? And then the trees, because the name of our mobile home park is called Woodland Heights, and it was that's kind of that's part of what we were, is like we want to be nestled in the swamp, in the woods, among the trees. And but man, the tree damage, dude, like wow, the trees, just mountains of limbs and
Yeah.
trunks and tree debris. Right.
Well, what exactly? Because I think I heard reports that this, before it hit land, was like 154-mile-per-hour winds. Do you know what it was when it reached you guys?
Yeah, it was still sustained. I think they still had like wind up here in Thibodaux. And got to remember where we were on the weaker side of the eye wall, and we still had 120-mile-an-hour winds that I saw from a Facebook Live
Yeah.
on during the storm. Some storm chaser had put himself, he was like a mile away from the trailer park. I knew exactly, he was at the Academy Sports, a mile away from the trailer park, and he was clocking winds of 120 miles an hour. And I'm just sitting there watching it like,
Wow.
crying.
Yeah. So where were you when this storm was going on? Were you here at the trailer park or someplace else?
We drove to Huntsville, Texas. That's the closest place we could get a room. So me and my mom and my brother and my brother's girl and some of her family and all of the dogs, and we just loaded up and drove out to Huntsville, Texas, and found a little like hole in the wall place that was okay with us having that menagerie, that petting zoo with us. And so, we stayed there and we watched the news and just watched it. And I watched, as bad as we had it, Rip, like if people don't know where Cutoff, Louisiana is, where Larose, Louisiana is, where Lockport, where Raceland, Galliano, Golden Meadow, that's all stuff we call down the bayou. From here, we up the bayou here. Those places got destroyed, man. Destroyed. And it's insane.
So when you say they got destroyed, like, you think that there are people that were living there, like it was just obliterated?
Slabs, dude. Just slabs of homes left. Like Leeville and Larose. See, and when the eye got to about middle of the parish, like Raceland area, right? And it took a turn and went due north for a little while. And when it did that, it spared us. We still got really bad stuff, but it spared us. That eastern eye wall stayed on Lockport, Larose, and just crushed them. And it just turned and pivoted on top of them. And so it was insane. It was bad.
So what's the because I know that you have a insane can-do kind of make-do attitude and skill set. And like, for example, in your book Sick to Fit, you talk about how man, I can take a rowboat and a little bit of duct tape and turn it into a Cajun submarine, right? So exactly. So I'm wondering, like, is that the prevailing attitude down there that people have? I mean, have they rolled over, or are they fighting right now to kind of get back?
No. Oh no, bro. That's we got like a Cajun French term called a tête dure. That means hard head, bro. We got a bunch of hard-headed fellas down here and ladies, and the harder it is to survive a thing, the more likely it is we will.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Just to prove you wrong.
Well, speaking of proving people wrong, I think you proved a lot of people, wrong when. So tell me kind of the story, like how, if you can give us the kind of Reader's Digest version of how did you stumble into plant-based nutrition?
From running, Rip, like that, because I surrendered to running as an exercise, as even an option. That's the first step that happened, and that's the first thing. When I look back at it, that's the first domino that kind of fell, was me surrendering and saying, "Oh, I'm not a big 6'8" gorilla, big man. That's not, you know, I can be slimmer. I don't have to be a football player for the rest of my life. And so I started doing running, and that's when things changed. And the running got difficult because I stayed heavy. Because at that time, it was all meat for me. It was like low carb. And I was like, man, if I do low carb and I run a lot, I'm going to get skinny.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I started getting, I mean, I lost a lot of weight really quick. But I was honestly, you know, I mean, we all family. I was constipated. It was rough.
Yep.
And the whole reason that I was doing paleo and stuff like that is because I was trying to find like that authentic nutritional norm. And it just hit me one day. I'm like, where was the authentic human man getting his Metamucil and Dulcolax, the stuff that I'm trying to use?
Yeah.
You know? And so, but it was the backbeat of constantly trying to be better at running that made me want to sort of play with that nutritional equalizer board, if you will.
Yeah.
And then reading Jurek's, I read Born to Run, and that introduced me to Scott Jurek.
Yeah.
And then Scott Jurek kind of was the thing that kind of ignited me when I was like, wait, people run marathons? Wait, people want, what's the ultra marathons? And then just kind of, I took off from there. And that's what got me into the plant-based side of stuff. And then by the time I adopted plant-based, I still had probably 115 pounds to lose. And it just flew off in record time. And all of a sudden, I was running, and I had times. It wasn't just finishing. I had goals, and things that just really took off. It was like an amalgam of not only the nutrition, but the inspiration from guys like you and Rich Roll and Scott and Brendan Brazier.
Yeah. And
all of these people, you know, just really, it really provided like a North Star of influence and inspiration for me to not just be plant-based, but to try to become that authentic version of myself that Rich talks about. Like there's a default human version of all of us. And I want to be as close to that as possible in this very unnatural world we live in, you know, and that's what all of this has really brought me to. And plant-basedness is just like one of the facets of that, you know?
Yeah. You're trying to, you know, become a better runner, trying to be, you know, kind of live in a way that's truly authentic. What about all these hard-headed Cajuns that you're living around? You know, your brother, your mother, maybe, you know, relatives, aunts, uncles. What do they think as they see you becoming this lean, mean, plant-strong running machine?
Well, I mean, some of them just kind of roll their eyes and think it's a phase, and Joshua eventually, you know, just like all the other phases of my life, I'll evolve past it. Some of them, like my brother and my mom and my sister, really sort of took heed to the examples that they were like, whoa, wait a while. None of us has ever lost all of the weight, that last 100 pounds. You know, we always, you know, chipped away at it, but we all would always cave back and put back a bunch on, and we had taken off in the first place. And so as that started to not happen, and they could see me get, you know, further and further and further into leaner and leaner and more athletic, especially my brother, he's like, I can't ignore the proof. I can't ignore what's right in front of my eyes, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's a category where the nucleus of my family, we took it almost kind of like your family. Like it's almost like a family moniker now. Bit. Like we're proud of that, you know? And then there's also the other people in my life who I introduced to another Cajun term where we just kind of split draws, where we, you know, we don't see each other no more. It's over, you know? And you got to be okay with those outcomes too, you know, Rip? You got to be okay with that too. You got to be okay with it.
What's that called? You split drawers? Drawers, did you say?
Yeah, you split draws. That means we don't mess with each other no more.
Oh my goodness gracious. I know. Isn't that something? Well, I want to dive more into that, but before we do, you know, so in reading your book, Sick to Fit, I was really just blown away with kind of the how you had to hit rock bottom at some point before you decided that you were going to kind of get better. Will you describe like when you hit rock bottom and kind of what that looked like?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I feel like I've been to a bunch of rock bottoms throughout my life, and you know, I've bounced, thank God. I've never really buried myself.
Yeah.
But, you know, some of the darkest times of my life where, you know, I'm abusing drugs and alcohol and doing all-nighters and trying to just live a very untenable, unsustainable life for whatever reason. And looking back at things, it's really just trying to find dopamine, just trying to find something to make you happy, you know?
Yeah.
And those things morph from cocaine and alcohol to cheeseburgers, and you're proud of yourself because, well, at least I'm not doing the coke no more, but you know, now I'm getting fatter and fatter by the year. And you know, it's just that life, it snowballs on you, right? It just does. It just snowballs. And you know, the sadness breeds more sadness, which breeds more salving with foodborne dopamine, because you've given up all other sources. And then you know, running comes along, honestly. In a lot of ways, running is a form of healthy punishment. You know, it's like a healthy injury. It spurs anti-fragility rather than the other way around, you know. And
who brought I mean, how did you get back into running? Like what was that light bulb moment?
That's a really good question. I think it's just like I read about it in an article in Runner's World at a gym that I was going to. I was lifting weights at LaRussa's gym here in Thibodaux, which was an institution in Thibodaux. And after my workouts, I had started getting on the elliptical, and I would read magazine articles, and I saw a weight loss tip about running, about that low sort of zone 2 cardio effort, how that keeps you in a fat burn state. And I was like, well, damn, I need hella fat burn. I guess I need to start running. And so that's where it really started. And the way it started, Rip, is I would go work out for like an hour, and then I would go get on the elliptical for like 30 minutes. And then I would get on the treadmill and do the best I could to just jog nonstop for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And I started to get up to where I could turn the treadmill up to 5 miles an hour for my 5 minutes, which is, you know, 12-minute mile pace. But back then I was still like 380. And the treadmill I was burning up the motor, and the owner of the gym was like, hey man, you need to slow the machine down or go outside or something. But that's what pushed me outside. Like, honest, that's the thing that made me go outside and say, okay, now I'm fat man outside running with flabby titties and all, and surrendering to that and just letting it be what it was.
Yeah.
Was really helpful for me looking back at it, you know?
Well, in the book, you mention how there's this technique, especially when you're starting out and you're, you know, over 100 pounds overweight, you call it jiggle jogging.
The jiggle jog, right?
Yeah, can you explain to people what that is?
Well, when you 400 pounds and you got, you know, titties and fat rolls, and like my armpits would clap and my flat rolls would clap together. And so what it was back then I was maybe, you know, I was just saying a 12-minute mile pace, but that was like a sprint at the end of the workout. If I was going to go for 2 or 3 miles at a stretch, I was doing more like a 16-minute pace, a 15-minute pace, 15:30, something like that. And at that pace, I'm just jiggling my big old body. That's all I was doing, was really just kind of jiggling on what we would call on the football field. Like when you go from one drill to the next drill, your coach would always tell you, on the hop, let's go, on the hop, in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that's just how I did. I would just kind of get on the hop. It wasn't quite a walk, but it wasn't quite a run. It was just me doing a little jiggle jog, jiggle my fat around and get it wiggling and sweating and see if we can't get it off. It worked.
And in the beginning, when you were doing this, you were what? You were waking up at 3 a.m. so no one could see you out there. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. I had my friend Jeffrey, who I went to kindergarten with, and he was coming to the gym with me, and so I had a good steady partner. And honestly, I was another Bayou word. I'm gonna teach you another Bayou haunt. H-O-N-T. Haunt means embarrassed. So I was a little bit haunt. To go jiggle myself outside, and just so everybody could see. But I would wake up early in the morning, and plus it hurts. I was embarrassed really to see me, for people to see my grimace, like on my face. And so that was I was hiding a lot of times by getting up early and getting started.
Yeah. Well, so at some point you must have run like in the middle of the daytime. I'm wondering, did you have people yelling at you? I mean, and if so, no, that's okay. That's good.
Yeah. That's all in your head. It was all in my head.
Yeah.
And even if they were yelling, like, who the hell are they? Like, and so,
exactly.
And so, but the first time I really sort of was testing running in the daylight where people could watch me was my very first Crescent City Classic, which was in 2012. And so that was the first time I ran like in the daytime. And it's a 10K run, and I was still probably 320, 330 back then.
Yeah.
And I was feeling nice and I was feeling good, yeah, I used to do this thing where I would get a size too small undershirt, and I would put it on and tuck it into my underwear, and then put my regular shirt on top of it to try to, like, it was almost like a little girdle, like Spanx does now for men,
Yeah.
And right. And so I would get a tall shirt, like a long shirt, so I could tuck it way down into my drawers and it wouldn't slide up. But man, I didn't realize running in the daytime with that get up, I was so hot. It was a big learning experience for me, that's for sure. And then
and then you went on. I mean, you've gone on to win some ultra distance, 50Ks or 50 milers, right?
Right. I've been on I've been lucky enough to be on the podium a few times, and I say lucky, I mean it. It's not. Yes, I worked hard, but I'm also lucky enough to have the freedom of schedule to train for those things, to have a brother who's got my back, to have a mom who's got my back, a wife who's got my back. And, so I'm lucky in a lot of reasons why I was able to, get on the podium, and I was trying to honor them a lot of times when I would go and do the hard work necessary to try to fulfill or achieve the goal I had set for myself, is really to honor the sacrifices that the people I love around me make for me to be happy.
Yeah.
And so it had me pushing really hard competitively. And at that time too, my Bam was getting close to the end, and you could just feel it coming, and that's just real heavy. And that all mixed together one day at a 50 miler in Florida. And I mean, I just had a time goal that day. I didn't realize that time goal was going to get me first place. And it did, and I was happy. My Bam was there to watch it. And it was just one of the most amazing moments of my life, much less running,
Yeah. Yeah. 50 miler. I can't. The thought of running 50 miles, did you have a lot of up and downs when you do something like that? Or was it just, a lot of
ups and downs. And, oh man, I came out, I think I ran the first 20 too fast, and like you second guessing yourself, and, oh no, I slowed down too much. You should just keep pushing. That's what you train for. And you constantly back and forth. And then, and I was actually in a real dark place, feeling really tired when I caught the leader. I wasn't even aware, because we were on a 4-mile loop course. So I was looping by all kind of people. So I wasn't really 100% sure what place people were in. And in mile 40, I just had my head down and doing work, just getting it done. And the dude was like, man, you just passed the leader. And I was like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And I just kept working, and it was true.
Wow, that is so awesome, man. And Bam Bam got to be there. Well, I've met.
Oh yeah, he high-fived me. He high-fived me. He knew exactly what happened. He said, "We won," and he had tears in his eyes. Oh. We won the whole thing.
Oh my! And so did Bam Bam? Did he also, was he able to embrace any of the plant-based lifestyle as well?
Yeah, he did. To be completely, 100% disclosure, he did. But it's not like he put up much of a fight, because by the time he went plant-based, we were feeding him every meal, and he was just happy to eat. And he liked bananas a lot, and it was real easy to transition him. It wasn't really that hard. But to be fair, if you'd have put fried chicken in front of him, that's what he would have ate.
Yeah.
And so, but we did that on purpose because of the stuff we learned from your dad and from Dr. Campbell, and the things that I was learning and trying to pass along to my family. And yeah, in his 80s, he lost 200 pounds.
Oh my God.
And it didn't reverse his vascular dementia. It did mitigate a lot of the factors involved with it, but it didn't reverse it. And but he did become more ambulatory. I mean, you lose 200 pounds and all of a sudden, like, now we don't need the hover round anymore because you can walk.
Yeah.
And, that breeds other positive outcomes. The more he walked, the better he felt, the better his mood was. And it was just, it was a wonderful thing there until eventually, I mean, we all know once the horse is out the gate, like once the horse is out the barn on the vascular dementia stuff, we know from the Scher's eyes what's up. It's not pretty. That's why we don't want to get there.
No. Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you've been doing this for maybe, right around a decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
How is your resolve? I mean, are you just like, hey, this ain't no thing, and this is just now a natural extension of who I am? What would you say to people that are struggling with it?
Dude, I struggle. I would, the me from about 2 years ago would have a different answer to that, Rip.
Yep.
But the me from right now is my safety net, really. Not to disappoint any Esselstyns, but my safety net is it vegan? And that's, but I know where the path is.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you have the bread, you have the peanut butter that has maybe has hydrogenated oil and a thing in it because it's all you got available right now. And trying to release the idea of the perfection for myself has been a struggle. Like, because, that's a fat person giving himself some excuses a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
And so I really want to own, though, how the struggle is ever present, because I don't know if it's something, I think it's a real big misnomer and tends to set people up for failure to just, and I did this for so long, just do it, just get it done. And man, I'm really understanding more and more about life circumstance and about meeting people where they are, and about forgiveness, and about easing up just a little bit and giving people time, and even giving yourself some space, and but my resolve is there, and I'm forever grateful for what I've learned. I know how to not get heart disease. I know how to eat in a way that isn't gonna make me morbidly obese in short order, like the old way of eating. Even if I do have crackers and chips in there from time to time. And I would say that what really helps my resolve is this overall identity to what it means to me, like I was talking about earlier, um, like the entire picture of what plant-based is a part of.
Yeah.
That's what my resolve is for, like to try to be that human animal that lives on love and community and that type of thing. And we're ever evolving beings in a very dynamic culture, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, well, listen, that was all so well said. And, you're right. Everybody's in a different, circumstance. And I think that's really smart to, have that forgiveness, and meet people where they are, and not be, one of the things I've learned is, don't judge, just do everything you can to be supportive and helpful. But, I tell people, listen, I don't care if you fall 100 times. I just would ask that make sure you get up 101 times if you fall down 100 times. In your book, you have a concept of, naturally attainable quantities. I think you call it the one idea to rule them all. Can you speak to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just makes sense to me as I've been hunting and fishing all my life, and the first thing you got to know as a person who wants to take another animal as food is you need to know what that animal uses as food, right? So it's like I understand what squirrels eat, I understand what fish eat, and it just makes good sense to me to look around. Howie talks a lot about biomimicry and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it just makes a lot of good sense to me. Look around at other animals like me and look at what they eat. And not only this particular things they eat, but think about the quantities with which they can obtain these foods, right? And as an example is like the nuts thing. We always, you know how it is in whole food plant-based, like that's the loophole food for all of the fat people is everybody goes to the nuts. And I'm talking about fat people like myself. I know the weaknesses, and you go and you find these loopholes and the loophole gets dried up. The loophole my sort of naturally attainable quantities idea is kind of closes that loophole, in other words, to me, because are nuts a natural food? Is it a whole food? Absolutely. But how do they come in nature? How would you happen upon them? And how long would it take you to find and shell? How many steps would it have taken you to collect all of those 3 handfuls of nuts that you just scoffed down from your Costco bucket, right? And so it's not just about identifying the foods that are whole food, plant-based, natural, protective against chronic disease and obesity and those things. It's not just about finding the foods themselves, but it's also about thinking about quantities of these foods in a way that makes sense for me. And for a sportsman in Louisiana who grew up hunting, fishing, that makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me to follow the food patterns of similar organisms, and not only the types of food, but also the quantities,
Man, that makes complete sense. And just to go a little further with your example with nuts, I'm 58 now, and I can remember when I was growing up, we would have nuts, but you'd have to have the shell. You'd have the little instrument that would crack the shells, and you'd have
the cracker.
Yeah,
right,
and
exactly.
you'd have maybe 10, and you'd be done. You didn't have the
Yeah, exactly. People would pick their favorite ones.
Yeah. You didn't have the luxury of having a big bin of cashews, pistachios, almonds, peanuts. You had to work for it.
Not only that's not good enough these days, they got to spray it with some sort of oil and then coat it with salt on top of that, or sugar, and call it honey baked cashews or honey roasted something or another. And it's like these layers of caloric density on top of an already extremely calorically dense food,
Yep, totally. So what's it? So you and I texted the other day a little bit, and you're in a very unique situation right now. What have you been doing for food? I mean, has it been
It's been bad. Yeah, it has. It's been because we have. I've been, which my friend. I have a good friend of mine. Jason Harper. He's. I love him to death. He's one of the Missing Chins brothers, one of the OG Missing Chin dudes, and he's not from here, but he lives right here in Schriever. And he's been amazing and come and donate his time and money to come refill gas cans for tenants, and just been an amazing human. And he brought me a whole like 3 grocery bags full of bananas and apples and Granny Smiths and all kinds of stuff. And that's the first time I had seen food, like that in a couple of weeks, because we had either been on the road and it had just been whatever we could find, vegan processed food, chips, crackers, peanut butter, bread, and those calorically dense processed things are just not good, especially when, I'm not moving very much anyway right now. And all we're doing is picking up limbs. I'm operating either an excavator or a front end loader, picking up either trash or limbs. And the whole before the hurricane even came, you can't see me right now, but my hand is all wrapped up because I fell and I cut 2 tendons in my finger, on a machete. And the reason I was even in the woods cutting a trail to walk in the first place is because my back's been bothering me, for a couple of months, and it was just like snowballing on me. But this storm had just really, it's been find something at Taco Bell, bean burritos at Taco Bell while we're on the road, just things like that. It hasn't been optimal. There's been no eat loaf made recently. There's been I was looking at your plate on Instagram the other night, and I was like, oh my God, that looks so amazing, filling and healthy, guilt-free.
I feel so spoiled here in, Austin. Everything's safe and easy and plentiful. So it sounds like you have been put through the ringer, and you're being challenged mentally and physically, kind of in a way
1,000%, right?
that you've probably never been. Is it fair to say this is like the most you've probably ever been tested in life?
Yeah. This is by far, right? Yeah. And then tested is a much better word than feeling like, I'm trying to be defeated for some kind of reason or something, and it was terrible timing. It was a great article, but it was terrible timing with the Scott Jurek article about sometimes you just get defeated. I don't know if you read that article. It's a really good article.
Oh, was this in the New York Times?
Yeah. And I was like, bad timing, Scott. That's not what I need to hear right now. Sometimes you just get defeated. Sometimes you can be defeated. And I'm like, I don't want to be defeated right now.
Well, you know what? I think that, here's the thing. And Scott, you look at Scott. What I love about what Scott did, Scott, he showed up. He showed up. And he went for it, right? So he basically decided, you know what, that record, that AT record is a little bit soft. I bet you I can break 40 days. And he went for it, right? But he got a little bit. He didn't do it this time, but I think there's some lessons learned, and he'll probably go back and try it again. But being challenged in life is inevitable, but being defeated is optional. And so just, don't roll over. You just keep fighting. Yeah. It doesn't mean, nobody said life's easy. And you of all people know that, but,
of course.
No, I want you to know this, that so you are, due to some, unforeseen natural disasters, you're in a position that, not many of us have been in. I'll speak for myself. And so what I'd like to know is, what can this wonderful, loving, nurturing, plant-strong community do to help out a family member that is in need right now? Do you have a Venmo fund set up? Is there some way we can contribute to help you kind of help rebuild this trailer park community? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, Howie helped me and set up and did a podcast on his podcast, the Plant Yourself podcast, and I love. He's become it's a whole nother side story, but he's like one of my best friends in the world now. But
and for people that don't know, this is Howard Jacobson who helped you. You guys both wrote Sick to Fit together, and
he's my co-author in Sick to Fit, but I know about him from his co-author in Whole with Dr. Campbell. That book was a huge game changer for me mentally. It let me release the grip on all of the science I was getting drowned by at the time.
Yeah.
And so he's just been like a mentor and a big brother figure to me for years now. But he convinced me like to just say, hey man, let me throw it out there on the podcast. Give me a Venmo and let's just, and see. And we'll just tell people, if you trust Josh, and it's not a 501c3 or nothing, but if you trust Josh and that he wants to do something good and you want an avenue to get money to him, here's his Venmo. And so you can do that if you want to. And I'll share the QR code or whatever with you.
That would be great.
If people want to do that. And if you would rather find like an actual nonprofit that you can donate to that you'd feel more comfortable with, if you want to do that in a different way, maybe you want to make a big sizable donation and you don't want to put that on me. Like I would recommend, just look up Bayou Buff. That's Bayou Buff Volunteer Fire Department. That's very near to Chack Bay, where I'm from. And they're a very unique fire department who they're community funded, they're self-funded, and they're doing amazing things right now to feed their community, and not only their community, but all of the little swamp communities around there that we're all part of. And so I would also encourage you to do that and Google those towns that I talked about earlier. Just figure, because I haven't been on the internet much, so I don't know where there's GoFundMe's or campaigns to raise funds. But just Google around on the internet and find out South Lafourche, that's the parish I'm in. Look how what's needed down there. Follow Lafourche Parish government on Facebook and see if you can catch a clue and a link on maybe how to donate to a family in La Rose or Lockport or a church or somebody helping down there. I'm not saying, just my Venmo is the only way to help down here. I'm just me. I would encourage you to just familiarize yourself with the Bayou parishes in South Louisiana, what we've been through, and maybe you want to adopt a town and send them something. I don't know, but just think about some things like that. That could go a long way. And but we're all down here right now like army ants, just fixing our home, fixing it back up. A bunch of blue tarps and generators. The generators are less so as the days progress. But as long as we can have the rain hold off and we can get recovered, and we'll be back to normal soon enough. Well,
Josh, you're a good man. You are a good man. You're a strong man. And you're, to me, one of the things when I spent some time with you, I think it was 2017 or 18 when you hosted me, you're about as real as they come. And what you see is what you get, and it is a beautiful sight.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, it means a lot to me, Rip. I really, I really look up to you. I really look up to Rich. Your dad, obviously. Your sister, Jane, is amazing. And your mom has been awesome to me throughout these years. And, we're all very different. We come from very, very different backgrounds, and we're not the same at all when it comes to certain things. We just have different life experiences. But at the end of the day, I really, consider you a brother, and I really look up to you. And I thank you for all of the help that you've given me over years, and especially this phone call that we're having right now, bro.
Hey, one thing I know is you and me, we're not gonna separate drawers. Is that what the saying is? What's the saying?
Yes. Bro, that was so funny.
That's right.
We ought to have a TikTok of just like Yankees trying to say Cajun things, bro.
That's right.
That'd be hilarious.
That's right.
No, we go split draws, bro. We never go split draws.
That's right. That's right. Right. No, never split draws. All right. Hey, Josh, Matt, this has been a really important conversation. Thank you for taking this, because I know you got a jillion things going on right now. But we're gonna do what we can to help out a Plant Strong brother in need, and I'll check in with you really soon. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Rip.
Hey,
appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. Peace. Engine 2.
Peace.
Keep it plant strong.
Yes, sir.
Man, there's not too many people that are as real and raw as Josh, and I super appreciate him taking the time to talk to me on the phone in the middle of all the stress and the chaos that he's going through right now. And I also want to appreciate all of you for taking the time to listen and get the real story about life right now in the Bayou. As we said in the interview, quitting is optional, and I'm pretty confident that Josh isn't going to quit. We're here to support him. And if you'd like to help or learn more, visit the links in the episode page at plantstrongpodcast.com. We give Venmo links as well as other information on the true devastating effects of Hurricane Ida. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for listening to the Plant Strong podcast. You can support the show by taking a quick minute to follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Leaving us a positive review and sharing the show with your network is another great way to help us reach as many people as possible with the exciting news about plants. Thank you in advance for your support. It means everything. Have you had your own Galileo moment that you'd like to share? What happened when you stepped into the arena and shed the beliefs that you thought to be true? I'd love to hear about it. Visit plantstrongpodcast.com to submit your story and to learn more about today's guests and sponsors. The Plant Strong podcast team includes Carrie Barrett, Lori Kordowich, Amy Mackey, Patrick Gavin, and Wade Clark. This season is dedicated to all of those courageous truth seekers who weren't afraid to look through the lens with clear vision and hold firm to a higher truth. Most notably, my parents, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. and Ann Cryle Esselstyn. Thanks for listening.